from the desk of Shekhet AI. And welcome to our deep dive today, where we break down the latest AI news through philosophical, business, and societal lenses. We try to make this stuff accessible to absolutely everyone. So today, we're going to be diving into some pretty significant developments in artificial intelligence. We've got some info about some really interesting new ways to think about how to assess AI capabilities. Looks like Google has this advanced reasoning model called Gemini 2.5 that just came out. And then we also have something about an AI for cancer diagnosis that looks really transformative. So in this deep dive today, our goal is to really just understand the core insights from these developments and then try to figure out what they mean for how we think about intelligence, the future of business, and the shape of society as a whole.
It's a really interesting time right now to be looking at AI because all of this progress is happening really on multiple different fronts at the same time. And what strikes me is how all these different areas, the drive for better AI evaluation, the creation of more sophisticated models, and then their applications in these like really critical fields like healthcare, it just shows how fast AI is evolving right now and just the increasing impact it's having on both.
Yeah, it seems like every day there's something new that we need to be paying attention to.
I know, it's incredible.
So, okay, let's start with the philosophical side of things first.
Okay.
One of the developments that caught our attention was this announcement of ARC-AGI-2 and the ARC prize for 2025. So for our listeners who aren't super deep, in AI research, what makes this initiative so noteworthy?
Well, I think what's particularly interesting about this ARC prizes is that it's focused on designing these really rigorous benchmarks for what we call artificial general intelligence, or AGI. So think of it this way. It's not just a test of some very specific skill, like playing a game of Go or something like that. This is more of an attempt to figure out whether an AI system can show us like a broad understanding and problem-solving ability that it can use across a wide range of situations, even situations it's never seen before.
So almost like how a human can adapt to new challenges.
Exactly. The ambition here is to move beyond what we call narrow AI. This is AI that's really good at just one specific task. And instead try to get to these systems that have more general cognitive abilities.
Got it. So it's like moving away from testing AI on tasks that we already know and we've already defined, and instead seeing if it can handle something brand new, something unexpected.
Exactly. And that raises some really fundamental philosophical questions for us.
Okay, such as?
Well, can we even design benchmarks that actually capture what intelligence really is? And this goes for both artificial intelligence and human intelligence. You know, are these tests really measuring a deep understanding, or are they just really, really complex pattern matching exercises? It really makes us think about what we even consider to be the core parts of intelligence itself.
That's a really interesting point, because like, what are the limitations of even trying to define and measure something as complex as intelligence? Just using a set of benchmarks.
You're right. Any benchmark is always going to oversimplify how complex the real world is. Intelligence isn't just about, you know, solving these isolated problems on a test. It's about intuition. It's about creativity. It's about this deep understanding of the context of a situation. So while these benchmarks are really useful to push AI forward, we have to keep in mind that they might not be telling us the whole story about what it means to be truly intelligent.
Like it almost seems like defining the goal is almost as difficult as actually achieving it. So let's move on to the business world for a second. Google recently unveiled Gemini 2.5. And our sources point to this as a really big step forward in AI reasoning. So what makes this relevant for businesses?
Well, if you think about how competitive the AI industry is, the release of a model like Gemini 2.5 really shows us that companies are still pushing for innovation. And for businesses in any industry, the potential impact of this kind of advanced reasoning model is huge.
I can imagine. Like, what could we do?
Imagine having an AI that can take in and understand huge amounts of information, and it does it with more nuance and accuracy than ever before. I mean, this could lead to breakthroughs in a lot of areas, everything from market analysis, strategic planning, even like optimizing these really complex logistical operations.
So it's not just about processing data fast.
No, it's not just about speed. Models like Gemini 2.5 are probably using new ways of understanding and connecting information, so businesses could potentially start seeing like subtle changes in the market that traditional analytics just wouldn't pick up on.
Wow, and that could really change how companies think about it.
It could fundamentally change how they compete with each other.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's not just about speed. It's about a deeper level of understanding that could give businesses a real competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if we think about tasks like understanding customer feedback, which can be really complex,
Right.
or trying to figure out what trends are emerging from these huge data sets, it sounds like these enhanced reasoning capabilities could help businesses find insights that they couldn't get before.
That's right. And that could lead to more informed decisions and more innovative solutions.
But like with any kind of rapidly developing technology, there must be some challenges.
Oh, of course, for businesses that are trying to use these new capabilities.
What kind of challenges are we talking about?
Well, to keep up with how fast AI is changing, you need to invest a lot in infrastructure and expertise. And not every company has the same resources as these huge tech companies.
Yeah.
Then there's also the problem of actually integrating these really advanced AI tools into the way a business already works. You have to make sure that the insights that these tools are giving you are actually things you can act on. And they have to be in line with what the business is trying to do.
Makes sense. And on top of that, businesses need to think about how are they actually going to use these powerful tools on a large scale?
Right.
And how are they going to manage the costs?
Exactly.
So it's interesting how there's this balance between all this potential and all these practical hurdles.
Right.
Okay, so let's shift our focus one more time.
Okay.
This time to the societal implications. Our sources talk about this AI model that's really good at diagnosing endometrial cancer.
Oh, yeah.
They're saying it has near perfect accuracy. This sounds like a huge development.
It really is. What's amazing here is that we're seeing AI being used to directly help people in a field as important as healthcare. To be able to diagnose something as serious as endometrial cancer with that level of accuracy is a game changer. It could mean we find these cancers much earlier, that the treatments are more effective, and ultimately that people have much better outcomes. This is a really clear example of how AI can have a positive impact on both individuals and society as a whole.
Like, can you imagine?
Imagine the peace of mind that patients would have.
Yeah.
And healthcare systems would be so much more efficient.
Okay, so this is great, but obviously, when we start using powerful technology like this in healthcare, there are some bigger societal things we need to think about.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are some of those things?
Well, as we use AI more and more in healthcare, we have to make sure these technologies are available to everyone and that they actually benefit everyone equally.
Right.
We also need to think about how these AI models are developed and tested to make sure they work well for people of all backgrounds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We also have to think about what happens to healthcare professionals. As we start relying more on AI for diagnosis, how do we make sure doctors and AI can work together to give patients the best possible care?
So while the potential here is huge, it's not just about the technology itself.
No, it's not. It's about how we thoughtfully integrate it into our existing systems. And we need to make sure that it benefits everyone.
So it sounds like we've explored these developments in AI through these different lenses: philosophical, business, and societal.
Right.
And it's clear that these advancements are all kind of interconnected.
They are. And they're going to shape our future in some really profound ways.
So on the one hand, we're trying to build AI that's more intelligent. We see that in initiatives like the ARC Prize.
Exactly.
And that's driving the development of these really complex models like Gemini 2.5. And then that's leading to breakthroughs in fields like healthcare.
It's all connected. These things aren't happening separately. It's one big interconnected story.
And the biggest takeaway here is that the significance of all this goes beyond what the technology can actually do.
That's right. It's about us. It's about how we as a society choose to understand and use these technologies in our world.
This has been a really insightful deep dive. And we've seen how fast AI is advancing. So if you had to pick just one question, what's the single most important question that you think people should be thinking about in the next few years regarding these technologies?
That's a great question. You know, I think the most important question we can ask ourselves right now is, what kind of future do we want to build with AI? Because we have the power to shape that future. We can decide how we use these technologies, what problems we solve with them, and what values we embed in them. So yeah, that would be my question.
What kind of future do we want to build with AI? That is the question.